Welcome to this week's Sunday Supplement. As we move out of our national lockdown, it will be great to see some of you at church, knowing that others will be able to continue to watch the Sunday Supplement. In our sermon series, we move to our final month for this year, focusing on knowing the joy of the Lord. If you happen to be new or visiting us for the very first time, can I extend a special warm welcome to you? Sue Smith is going to start us this week with our reading.
Hannah's joy. Elkanah had 2 wives. One was called Hannah and the other Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah had none. Year after year, Elkanah went up from his town to worship and sacrifice to the Lord Almighty at Shiloh. Because the Lord had closed Hannah's womb, Peninnah kept provoking her in order to irritate her. This went on year after year. Whenever Hannah went up to the house of the Lord, Peninnah provoked her till she wept. Once, when they'd finished eating and drinking in Shiloh, Hannah stood up. Now Eli the priest was sitting on a chair by the doorpost of the Lord's temple. In bitterness of soul, Hannah wept much and prayed to the Lord. And she made a vow, saying, O Lord Almighty, if you will only look upon your servant's misery and remember me, and not forget your servant, but give her a son, then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life, and no razor will ever be used on his head. As she kept on praying to the Lord, Eli observed her mouth. Hannah was praying in her heart, and her lips were moving, but her voice was not heard. Eli thought she was drunk and said to her, How long will you keep on getting drunk? Get rid of your wine. Not so, my lord, Hannah replied. I am a woman who is deeply troubled. I have not been drinking wine or beer. I was pouring out my soul to the Lord. Do not take your servant for a wicked woman. I've been praying here out of my great anguish and grief. Eli answered, Go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant you what you have asked of him. So in the course of time, Hannah conceived and gave birth to a son. She named him Samuel, saying, Because I asked the Lord for him.
In this passage, we see Hannah giving a heartfelt prayer request to God for a child. And obviously this has been going on for some time, but she got to the point where she was desperate, and so her whole conversation with God was very different from what it might have been a few weeks or months before. And it is amazing to me that God did listen to her humanity, in a sense her weakness, and I believe he does that. But in this case, it was to do with bearing a child. And I've always thought that childbirth was something that God is very much involved in, and that if somebody has difficulty, then they must go to God the Father. He is the one who started the whole process of giving birth. He created this process, which we then cooperate in. And so it's good for us. Now we are the ones who've, in a sense, who've inherited the whole priestly function from the priests of old. We can pray on behalf of other people for this childbirth thing to go with people who are having difficulty. We are the ones who can call upon God in the way that Eli, in a sense, did that by saying to Hannah, May it be unto you God's will. So we can pray and should pray for people with difficulties. A few years ago, when I was looking after my father, one day my sister came in just to visit, and I could see that she was very depressed on that day. And she had a very heavy atmosphere. After she left, I went upstairs and prayed for her. I thought, well, I felt burdened myself, and so I prayed. And I felt that this was to do with childbirth. And I prayed for a few days afterwards too. Same thing. I felt really strongly about it, because clearly it was really... She'd been married for 17 years. She'd been trying for a baby for 15 of those 17 years. And that year she conceived and had a son, and he is now a grown up man in his 30s. Another case, I remember when I was studying for my accountancy qualifications in Gwent College. I used to go once a week. Two of my colleagues were there, and one was a woman who had been married, and she was also worried and feeling depressed about not having had a child. And she tried with her husband a few years and nothing had happened. And I said quite clearly to her that I would pray for her to have a child, and I did. And towards the end of our course, our 2 years, she became pregnant. And a bit later on, I heard from the other friend who knew us both that she had in fact had 3 children. Isn't that amazing? And another case I can remember praying as well. I can't remember the exact details of it, but I remember there was a third case when that happened. But to me, the wider picture is that God answers and comes to us in our humanity, in our weakness. And recently I've heard of situations where people have lost their job or their business has folded, and they have started expressing the whole idea of a lack of self-worth. They felt they're not worth anything, nobody cares about them. They can't work or or their business doesn't work. And I have to say that God gives us a self-worth. He puts us on his map. We are no longer orphans to just struggle on our own. We are sons and daughters of God, and that is the most important thing. So we get given a new self-worth that does not rely upon being employed, whatever, although God will help with that. No doubt about it, he will help. Call upon him. The second thing I've noticed too during this period, and I've seen it many times, is the stress and worry that people have within their families. And again, God comes with an answer to that. It says that, be not anxious, but by prayer and supplication make your requests be known to God. But it's more than that. There's no need for us to be stressed and anxious anymore, because we have God our Father there. And the third one, the lack of peace. So many people are agitated, they cannot relax, and they are not full of peace. Because peace is a supernatural thing, right deep down inside of us. And once again, God can come into our situations there too. And we must expect him to give people peace. I do remember once a student, she'd gone to college, and she came to a healing meeting on the Foxhill estate. And I remember her coming up and asking, I said, what do you want us to pray for? And she said, peace. I just don't have any peace. And we prayed. She was flooded with peace. Now, obviously what we would have liked after that was for her to come to faith in some way. In fact, she did come to faith in some way, having experienced that. The peace of God, supernatural. And lastly, the lack of a future vision. So many people have no vision for the future, particularly at these times. And God can give us that too. So he meets us in our need and in our weakness, and he makes a weakness into a strength. That's what's so amazing about the gospel we have.
Loving God, we have so much to thank you for if we would only realise it, but all too often we fail to do so. Instead of waking with a sense of anticipation at what the new day might bring, we greet each morning as though it is just another day, much the same as any other. We take for granted what's special, everything that should stir our spirits and capture our imagination, exciting and intriguing us, moving and inspiring, enriching and satisfying. Forgive us for allowing negatives to outweigh positives, for dwelling on what we haven't got rather than celebrating what we have, for letting familiarity close our minds to the wonder of so much around us. Help us to greet each day with joy in our hearts, welcoming it expectantly for all the possibilities it holds in store. Teach us to treat every moment as your gift, and to live it as fully as we are able. Amen.
The Lord's my shepherd, I'll and I will trust in you alone, and I will trust in you alone, for your endless mercy follows me, your goodness will lead me home. He guides my ways in righteousness, and he anoints my head with oil, and my cup it overflows with joy. I feast on his pure delights, and I will trust in you alone, and I will trust in you alone, for your endless mercy follows me, your goodness will lead me home. And though I walk in darkest path, I will not fear the evil one, for you are with me, and your rod and staff are the comfort I need to know. And I will trust in you alone, and I will trust in you alone, for your endless mercy follows me, your goodness will lead me home. And I will trust in you alone, and I will trust in you alone, for your endless mercy follows me, your goodness will lead me home.
Hi church family, it's Sarah here from Little Ones. I just wanted to give you an update of how we're getting on. Our Monday group has got a core of mums now, and some of them are new to parenting, whereas others are on their third or fourth baby. It's been a really wonderful opportunity for each of them to share about their lives and give moral encouragement to one another. Fridays are very different still. We have different people each week. It's been wonderful to welcome each person back and to see how much their little ones have grown and developed. We're able to offer a lovely play space, creative things to do, and song time.
There's nothing that he cannot do. My God is so big, so strong and so mighty. There's nothing that he cannot do. The rivers are his, the mountains are his, the stars are his handiwork too. My God is so big, so strong and so mighty. There's nothing.
It has been a bit stressful, but other than that, it went pretty easy on the day we actually moved. And that, thanks to also the helping of Andy Fraser from our life group and everybody else who helped, Ed and Kathy and Helen who helped do a bit of cleaning in the other house, and that. I don't know if Tex wants to say anything about it as well.
It was the day before we was due to move. It was very stressful because we had lots to still do. We never had the money in place to pay for the removal team. We never had the money in place to pay for the rent month's advance on the rent, and we never had the organisation to get the storage unit moved off the drive. We had a lot of stuff to clear, and we sat down and prayed the day before because we just couldn't see a way round it. And then on the actual day we were moving, was it the day we were moving?
No, it was the actual day before. We had a phone call from the removals team to say they got the funding to cover the cost to move us, and also the funding to get some new carpet.
So, and my brother came up and he found somebody who wanted a storage unit. So everything was cleared off the garden. The storage unit was gone and everything was done, ready to go to move on the Friday, which was lovely because we couldn't see any way of getting everything moved. Some people in our life group that put together on certain things bought us a new Hoover. Let's say thank you for that. And somebody bought us these big jumbo bags to put the stuff in to be took away. They're like a big skip, but they're a big jumbo bag. So a lot of rubbish went in there. And I'd say 2 days after we moved here, we got everything cleared off the lawns. So I'd just like to say thank you for people who helped, and thank you God for sorting it out.
And to everybody who prayed for us and putting the blessing on the new place as well.
But the best amazing thing is, when you get to see this, is we wake up every morning to a fantastic God-given view. Fantastic view it is.
Thank you for being with us this week. It's always great to see you. If you've enjoyed being with us, why don't you subscribe to the St. J's Group channel? And if you've a comment to make, well, please do so in the box below. And finally, I hope to see you all online again next Sunday.